Hi, how are you?
I'm doing okay this week. Had some stressful events happen and some pretty good ones, but overall it's been a pretty good week.
Glad. Did you do your homework? We talked about our homework from last session.
Yeah. Was it to write down points when I was stressed?
No. You were supposed to write one thing about what you're thankful about.
That's what it was. Hang on, I actually think I wrote this down. Got it. Okay, yeah.
Can you tell me at least two of them?
Yeah, so we met last Tuesday, and last Wednesday when I came home from work, the gate in my community was broken because I live in a gated community. And I know this sounds so dumb, but I love when the gate gets broken. Like, it makes me the happiest person on this earth for no apparent reason. Because I don't have to stop my car and put the window down and get the key and then swipe it and then get back in my car and put my seatbelt back on and drive through the gate. So it just makes it a lot less hassling to go home. And I don't know why, but that is like the best enjoyment in my life. I'd probably get a whole like gate with a key tattooed on me someday and just of this open gate, because that's how happy it makes me. You can laugh, it's perfectly fine because I know it's hilarious. So that was definitely a great event. And then, as bittersweet as it sounds, I had to fire somebody at work this week, and it was just very joyful to terminate them because they were such a headache employee. And I mean, you know, I never want to say that it's great to cost somebody their job, but when you're not doing it, finding a way I can terminate somebody that's ethical and legal is always great.
Okay. Last session we talked about how stressful you were. About your job. You had 3 jobs. You have 3 jobs right now.
Yes.
And how is that going for you?
Well, you're not gonna like my answer. So I actually picked up more hours at one of my jobs because the girl I could not stand quit. So they asked me if I would, you know, consider picking up any extra hours to come back full time now that she's gone. And I was like, I cannot do full time. I said, but I will work with you guys. Like, you know, I understand what it's like to lose employees and be short staffed because I run a company. And I feel like there's that mutual respect. So I've offered to be an opener one more day of the week when it's suitable for me. So this week I worked Monday and Wednesday. I'll be working tomorrow. And I'll go in at 2 a.m. and then I'll go to my other job at 10 and work till 10 p.m. So they're 20-hour days for me. That's why I don't like doing them. But, you know, being the nice person I am, I'm like, I understand where you're coming from, so let me help you out. With that being said, I still work my 40 hours at Annie Ann's, which is my main job. However, I've been tampering myself to take 2 days a week off instead of just the one. I was working 6 days. Now I'm trying to either take every Tuesday and Thursday off or take Wednesdays and Thursdays off, because this way it would be one less 20-hour day a week I had to work because I wouldn't have to go in for the last 6 hours. It would only be 14 hours, if that makes sense. So it wouldn't be a full day off, it would just be a little stress relief.
How do you feel
What do you mean?
having too much hours? And I know last session you were saying you didn't have enough time to do your homework, to have time for yourself. How do you feel now?
I mean, it's overwhelming, but this week I actually have a lot of free time. I got most of my schoolwork done early off in the week. You know, I pushed myself to stay up later on Sunday because I got off 2 hours early. So I pushed myself to stay awake and do schoolwork up until like 10, went to bed, got 4 hours of sleep, worked my 20-hour day on Monday. And I did some homework, you know, yesterday on my lunch break for like a half an hour. And then a little bit today before I had some time to myself. But, you know, I didn't actually have to work today. I had a day off to myself, and then class we didn't have, so I was able to, not have any, official responsibility. And then again on Thursday, it works out that I don't have work or school. And, having 2 days off in 1 week is beyond me because I never get 2 days off. And then I think Saturday I get off at 3:00 and I don't have anything after that. And, that's a lot more free time than I normally have in a week. So, with me taking the other position or the extra day, like, it's crazy to think that I have to work 3 20-hour days in a week and then an 8, a 7, and a 9.5. But, it's not as hard as people think when you mentally prepare yourself. Physically, I'm exhausted. But then when I knowing that I get days off and I'm still making the money that I'm making, it's incredible to me. Is managing my time that well. Someone joked with me that I have the worst time management skills they ever met, but I was like, do everything I do and let me know. But I don't know. I mean, it's something I'm choosing to do. So as much as I complain about how hard it is,
you feel good about it?
I feel good about it, and I know it's something that only I have the power to change when I say I'm ready to. So as much as I'd like to complain, I'm causing it to myself. But I also know that the reasons I'm doing it is to help everyone else out, keep myself busy, save money for future things that I want to do. But, if it does become too much, then I have to eventually admit that. And I have a hierarchy of which job would go first versus last. So, good things that have happened in my jobs this week, though, is my one boss let me go 2 hours early on Sunday. The other one let me go an hour early yesterday, which I think is because they know I'm tired and then I work a lot. So, they do help me and they work with me on that. And then I've been trying for, almost a month now to gain access to our corporate back end where they update the franchisee on new policies, procedures, if cost of goods are going up, if there's a new promotion coming out, new labor laws, anything that would affect our business, they submit through this page. It's called the Grid, and only franchisees are supposed to have it. Well, my franchisees are 2 older people, and then the third one is a son that owns his own store that he doesn't take care of anyway. So getting them to check their information and relay it to me is near impossible because they're so busy.
So it seems that this makes you mad?
Yeah, it's frustrating because they expect me to stay on top of this stuff when they tell me a month after it happens. Does that make sense? They want me to run their store effectively, but don't give me the tools to do it. So I'm when I had put in my notice, it was one of the requirements for me to stay was for me to be have access to the Grid and to PlayerLink, and I wanted to be the one doing this and this and this, and without their input, I'm either I'm in this place and position or you are, because I'm tired of the shared responsibility and then me actually having to do everything and then it having to be approved by you at the last moment. I said, because it's nonsense. I said, either you trust me to do it and do it right, or you don't trust me and you need to be in the store doing it. And with that conversation being had, obviously they weren't exactly thrilled that someone a lot younger than them was demanding such respect.
Mm-hmm.
But corporate told me that since I wasn't a franchisee that I was going to have my franchisee write a letter stating approval. And when I submitted it, my franchisees did submit a letter of approval, so they were on board with it. And I got my access today, which is, really thrilling because a lot of store managers don't have that access. So now, I can better the business. And then we do this thing every week in June. Every Saturday is sampling Saturday, mm-hmm. which is something our corporation likes us to do, where we try to bring in customer counts. And there's a competition that if you guys dress up and make themes out of it and make it fun and show that your staff loves their job, that you could earn prizes. Well, the first week they didn't send me a lot of good pictures, so I was I'm not even submitting them. And then the second week I came in and took pictures before I went to the wedding, And I uploaded them, and we actually won. 4 stores from across the nation win every week, and we actually won. And they just like, they made some pretzel shirts that were like superhero, like I think it was like Batman was inside of a lemon, and the Superman, instead of the S, they made a pretzel in it. Like, some of our staff is so creative beyond my mind, and I just absolutely honor it. And they were just all super, like, we didn't even do anything crazy that week. Like, they just got inventive and cared about their job, and it's thrilling to see that somebody would stay up late to paint themselves a shirt, and just go out of their way to think about making a shirt that involved our business instead of just buying a $5 one at Walmart. Like, it's incredible to see the effort that they put in. Well, last week we did a tie-dye theme, and corporate sent us, like, they're sending us 20 new shirts, which the shirts for our business are like $8 or $9 each. So, like, on our company standpoint, that's a really great, it's almost $200 worth of merchandise that we're getting for free, which is absolutely incredible. And, with that being said, this past Saturday we did like a tie-dye theme, and like we just wore tie-dye shirts, and it was still really cute, and we tried to tie-dye pretzels. But I was like, the odds of us winning back-to-back aren't likely. I said, so let's wait and go all out for our 4th week. Well, today my staff met me at like 9:30 in the morning at Party City, and we just bought like sparkly garland and tutus and leggings and sunglasses and beaded necklaces and those little dangles that hang from the ceiling, and God, it's gonna look like America threw up on our business. But I'm so excited and Joey's making custom Pretzel America t-shirts, and I was like, since we spent all this money, we're gonna leave it up all week because it's 4th of July week. And then I'm gonna try to get approval to wear the tutus and leggings and Pretzel America shirts and God knows what else on 4th of July as well. Because, you might as well.
Seems like you're excited and happy.
Yeah, it's good to know that they're standing behind me, and it's not me having to fight them to love their job anymore. Like, they are willingly doing these things.
Last session you were really depressed about how work was going.
Yeah. And then again, like, I got this member off my staff, which helps my stress a lot, because he just, the more we worked with him, the more we learned about him, and the more we learned that, he's not someone that we wanted on our staff. He said he had 10 months Annie Ann's experience, but all of my current staff has 6 months or less, and they were all more efficient than him. And not to take any credit for it, but maybe that's me as a manager and how I've trained them. But they would run circles around him. And, he had a charge on him for robbery. He had a charge on him for drugs and stealing. And he would openly admit this stuff, which in a way is supportive, because if he's going to be open about it, then he's not looking at doing it again, because you're raising suspicion on yourself. But it's also quite scary.
Mm-hmm.
Like last week they took a picture together, the whole staff did, and one of the girls had their arm around him, and he had his arm around her, and like everyone did. It was like one of those like line photos where, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And I get a message maybe a couple hours later from his girlfriend talking about, don't post that picture or I'm throwing him out of my house and all his kids. And I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, it's just a work photo. And they were just being supportive of each other. I was like, he didn't have to get in the photo. It was completely optional. And she's like, well, he shouldn't be working with minors, let alone taking photos with them. And I'm like, is there like a sex offender charge that I should be aware of? Like, why are we uncomfortable around minors when you live with 6 kids and anywhere working in that mall, you're going to be dealing with minors?
Mm-hmm.
And it just and then she had threatened to sue us because I made a comment that if it's not okay for him to work around minors, maybe this isn't the place he should be working, which I felt was appropriate because, I have 5 minors on my staff. So if you have an issue working with minors, or she has an issue with him working with minors, then this isn't a place you should be working. And I wasn't saying I was terminating him. I wasn't forcing him into quitting. Just a generalized statement that maybe you should reconsider. And she came back at me that they shouldn't be touching each other in the workplace and how inappropriate that was, and that if he was wrongfully terminated, then she was going to sue us and all of this. And I'm like, hold up. I didn't threaten anybody. I didn't post the picture like you had asked. Nothing was wrong. Maybe my comment was offensive, and I'll take credit for that. But
Did you offend someone?
maybe I offended her. But he has consistently told us that she was the jealous girlfriend, that she wasn't allowed to talk. He wasn't allowed to talk to anybody. You know, she didn't want him working with other females. And I'm like, well, you just entered a job where you work with 6 females. Congratulations. Like, and he's not allowed to have social media. He's not allowed to have a phone for himself, all because this girl was so controlling. So in my mind, it's her not wanting him to work with other females that are minors. So I'm like, well, if it's a problem that he works with minors, maybe it's not a job for him. Like, just making a simple statement that if she can't handle that, then that's something that they need to evaluate, you know?
Do you think the problem is with the boyfriend or the girlfriend?
I think there was trust issues, and then he had blatantly stated in the text that he had cheated on her before. So I would, like, obviously, you know, from my background and knowledge, I'm like, all right, so and apparently he said that, you know, she's a bigger girl and she's self-conscious. And the photo that he had taken, or that my staff was taken of, the girl that was directly next to him is a very attractive younger female. And I'm like, I think a lot of the photo that was the issue was that he had his arm around a very attractive female that was younger. And I think a lot of it was self-conscious. But then I had gotten a text the next day that he didn't show up to work, and the girlfriend's messaging me that, you know, he was touching her children and that he was watching child pornography and just all of this, and that the cops were looking for him. And I'm like, all right, well, that's definitely, even with that accusation present, he doesn't need to be working around minors.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless if it's true or not, his work ethic was crap. He did a no-call, no-show, which is an automatic termination at my job. If you don't call up and you don't show us and you can't... Now, say someone was in an accident and they can provide me medical documentation that happened, that's fine. But you can Google the store number. Most of them, all but one person has my number memorized by heart. You know, if something goes wrong, they know who to call. I'm like, you know, in the event that something happens, alert somebody. You know, Snapchat somebody, log into a Facebook and tell somebody, and that you can't come to work. And if it is a medical emergency, let us know later. We won't terminate you for it.
Mm-hmm.
But because we already were assuming he was flaky and we wanted to terminate him, it was our best means of doing it on a legal basis, was a no-call, no-show, because they sign a policy coming on with us that they read our handbook, and that's clearly in our handbook. So that's really good for us, that we were able to get rid of him, especially before anything was stolen or anybody was offended.
You have a lot going on.
That's just that one job. And that's what I'm saying, you know, like, obviously none of that is directly my problem, but being in the position that I am in there, it affects me
you.
And it concerns me, because these are my girls, you know, I love them, and, you know, I would lay my life down for any of them because we've grown so close as a staff. And I think that's what makes me a good manager, as well as them being a good staff, is our bond, and, you know, that we rely on each other and we trust each other. Like today, I was walking around with one of our girls and her sister went into a coma, and I immediately rushed her to the hospital and waited with her until her parents got there, or the mom and the father got there, so that they could take over and wait with them. And, you know, she was so frantic, she didn't know what to do. They didn't know which sister. The security had just called and said that, you know, we need to speak to Des. Her name is Des. And they told her that, you know, her sister was in the hospital in a coma. She needed to get here immediately. So she doesn't know what to do because, you know, she's a minor. She's never had to experience something like this before. I was like, okay, there's ways to do this. So, you know, we went ahead and called the emergency department, seeing if they could give us any information. They were able to actually identify which sister it was, which room she was in, which unit she was in, and how to get up there in the quickest way. So that was really good. And, you know, it was really great to have that support system there with her. And just be able to, and like, you know, I'm already offering to cover her shifts for the rest of the week so she can take time off because, you know, her sister, they're going to leave her in the coma for 72 hours, and if she doesn't wake, then they're going to take her off the life support, which that's going to be immensely hard on her.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, she knows that because we're all like best friends there. She knows that she has a strong team behind her and a strong support system.
How long have you guys been friends?
She's worked for us since November of last year. But she works 35 hours a week every week. So ultimately, you know, you get close with everyone. There's only
Spends more time at your job than...
Yeah, and there's only 9 of us. So you work with the same faces every shift. It's not like most jobs, you know. We have our openers, we have our closers, and we have our floaters, and, you know, you have people that... There's only 9 of us, and 4 people work every day. And on weekends, everybody works. So ultimately, you spend time with everybody. You get close to everybody. And a lot of the girls cling to me because the other members of management are boys. And I don't know if it's the gender or the age gap, but they don't seem to relate to them as well as they relate to me. And when I put my resignation in back in April, my boss my franchise owner had even come to me and said, you know, all the girls, when I told them that I put my resignation in, they were like, well, we're leaving too. We're finding other jobs. We're not working here without you because nobody's going to give us that bond that you've given us and the job that you've given us, because they knew what it was like before I came on board because they've heard the stories. And my franchise owner had even said that himself the night that they had talked to me about staying on, about, you know, if I leave, the whole staff will leave with me. And I'm like, you're completely correct. And they have already told me this. And he was like, I didn't even need to know. He was like, because he's like, they listen to you. And he was like, I don't know how you can get a group of teenagers to listen to you. I said, it's about how you talk. And he's like, well, I never went to school to learn how to talk to people. I'm like, you don't have to go to school to know how to be a decent person.
Right.
But, you know, he's very hot-headed. You know, he's gotten close to me. He's gotten, you know, like he's put his finger inches from my face, hollering at me, screaming at me. And, you know, coming from the background I've came from, that's nothing. My mom used to beat the crap out of us. Like, I can take abuse. My dad was a very hostile man. When that's approached to me, I've learned how to bite my tongue and take it. And I think that's why I'm in the position I am, is that when that stress hits him and he flips out on somebody, I'm somebody that can take it. Rather it's professional or not, that's another ball game.
You're strong.
And I think they know that. But with that being said, there's only so much I can do. And I mean, I know my work is stressful, but I'm also borderline failing some classes. I have C's in 2 of my classes, and it's very concerning.
What can you do to improve your grade?
I think a lot of it is not taking the time to focus as much as I need to. My biology class, I've always struggled with sciences, and I was scared when I started to take it online. As long as I pass, I'm going to be okay. I have an 81 right now. You need a 75 to pass, I believe. 75 or 77. So I have a couple points that I can bear. It's just a matter of really cracking down and hoping for the best. There's only 4 more weeks left of school, so I'm hoping I can really push myself, especially if I'm continuing the 2 days off a week, to sit down.
Do you get tutoring those days?
I don't think there's tutoring available in the summer, and there's nobody I can really turn to because no one I know takes them, these courses. And when I used to date a guy that was in my major, and when he would try to help me do my homework, he'd be like, oh, my instructor didn't do this. I took it during the summer. I took it on weekends, and my instructor didn't teach us this. We didn't have to do a paper. We didn't have to do videos. We didn't have to do this. But he went to Del Tech Georgetown, too. But yet none of our classes had lined up with the same curriculum. And I mean, so when you go to a tutor, what's that going to help you with if they don't know what you're implying? So I just think that that's something I need to work on, is managing my stress and making my schoolwork a priority.
Okay. Well, let's summarize what we spoke today. We talked about your job.
A lot about my job.
It seems like you're feeling great, good about your job.
Things are definitely more positive this week, yeah.
Yes.
Let's hope for a good next week. I'm just
yes.
really hoping that Dez's sister doesn't die, because if she does, she has less than a 10% chance of living right now. And you know, if she does, I know it's gonna destroy her. And she's one of my best workers, and I know that's selfish, but you know, as much as I don't wanna see one of my friends crumble, I don't wanna see my best employees crumble. She was supposed to be moving into a shift lead position. She, you know, we all had plans next week to hang out and just alleviate the stress off of all the girls, and I know it will break her, because, you know, even riding to the hospital today, she just was constantly just, you know, my dad just got out of jail, my brother's in jail, my dad doesn't talk to us, my one sister's dying, my cat ran away, she hasn't been back in 4 days, my other sister is like considering doing drugs again. Like, she was just naming everything that was going wrong in her life, and she's like, if this is just another thing that adds to her, I don't want to push her over the edge. You know?
Well, we'll wish the best for her and for you too.
I appreciate it.
See you
I'll
next session.
week. Absolutely.
Thank you for coming.